Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is the Bronzeville Neighborhood Association's meeting on February 10th, 2024. And we're glad that we're here, and it's a nice day out there, and it's good to be here. So we're gathering to get an update on our neighborhood developments and things that are happening. And we're very happy to be here. So again, welcome. I'm Willis Brown, president of the Bronzeville Neighborhood Association. And we really appreciate everyone taking a moment to come out. And so without further conversations or announcements at this point, we have the President's report. And the President's report, as President, is just a summary of a couple of areas of concern. And we have a few questions after the report or during the report. And the first one that we want to bring to bear is that of the condition of East High School. It is appalling that we can only graduate 25 people out of East High School. The population is 448 students in the great East High School. And what's appalling is the fact that no one is saying anything. The alumni, it's like hush hush. The administration, it's whatever they're doing, they're not doing right. And everyone keeps giving them the free pass that this is okay to graduate. And again, to follow up as to what happens to these graduates. Do they go on to college? How many of those 25 were the year before? There's no reporting or accountability. I just can't get that understood. Education is so critical today. But East High School and our whole neighborhood. So therefore, we have Trevitt, Champion, and East. And with the system that they are in, the condition, that it compromises our community's economic viability for the future. Who's going to want to move in here with their children and send them to a school that has a D grade? It's just awful. No, people will come here and live for its convenience, and then they'll send their kids out of the district, out of the area, or send them to private schools. And we have, our secretary isn't here right now. She had an emergency with her daughter. And she's in elementary, her and her son, her daughter and her son. And now the school system administration is getting them to take and put them on IEP, special programming, and testing them for dyslexia. So, I'm saying, how can our school system administrators can put that into some form to say, we need to test all these because they're jumping around or they're missing, whatever the case may be. How all of a sudden we have a generation of kids that our DNA has been altered that this is the behavior? So it's like, it's a cancer. Why don't we put into how do we get to this point? Is it always that the parents don't have jobs or on drugs? It's more to it than that. Maybe it's the way information is being taught. Maybe the school isn't equipped with teachers understanding to allow kids some mobility or how they play. Sometimes when things go wrong, they take recess from them and keep them in a room or things of those natures. What we have to say is what is going on. So we are going to follow up with this process of accountability with the school board. How do we have a full school board that allow the results and not bring that to the public for help? Or the residents, the neighborhood. And so we're saying it's unacceptable. So as we go forward, it's going to be, we want answers for this here. And we don't want to hear, and I am sick and tired of this whole thing about our babies. They are not babies. They are young men and women. Because as long as you keep saying that, that's what they'll become. They'll never grow up. It's if you tell a child that they're wicked, they're awful, they'll end up being that. So every time you hear, these are my babies, so when do they ever grow up? And so we have to establish some involvement to say we have to change how things are in the school. And if the parents need help, then we have to put a mechanism to address the issues of the parent, guardian, whoever. But that has brought to our attention the last couple of weeks. And I'm telling you, it is awful. And especially they are now asking the parents to sign the kids up for IEPs and testing them for dyslexia. Now, what kind of mess is that? Mm-hmm. But that's what's happening, and I'm sorry that she's not here, and she's fighting it. And if you say no, they try to get you on something else. Mm-hmm. So, we're going to look into that, because that should not be the case, where we have a generation of people that their DNA has been altered, that they all, when they go to school, they have to be labeled with something of learning. Right. I just, how do we have educators and people in administration or boards accepting that and putting that in place, where administrators are getting the parents to sign off on their child to get involved or get tested for that? Why don't we do that for the teachers? We need to test some of them. Right. I think that would be the case. Let's see if we're going to get them to sign up for IEPs for them. So I mean, yeah. And yeah, so that's where we are. We have a couple, but we can have any questions about the school system, and then we'll move on. Yes, Mrs. Ball.
As an alumni of East High School, I was really concerned when I heard there were only going to be 25 graduates. And I talked to a staff person who felt, and she's been teaching at East High School now about 15 years or more. And she felt that there were two problems. One that the neighborhood has recognized is that when they began to bus kids into East High School, and there wasn't the feeling of commitment to teaching or commitment to getting a good education. Secondly, she said that many of the students have difficulty reading, and they are unable to pass third grade reading tests, let alone some of the other tests that are given in the senior year. Just want to share that with you.
And the thing about it is that if we don't get a handle on this now, the process is that the school is giving some of those individuals a jail and prison sentence. If you can't read, if you can't participate, if you're not competitive, you're going to the jail. I mean, it's that simple. It's not complicated. You need a rocket science to do that. So we have to change something, and we're going to be looking into what can be done to alter this. And my thing is, if there's no answer, we have to press for answers. We have to go to the state and go down to the state house and say this is unacceptable. We just got hit with an assessment on our property for the school system, and you got the report is that you're at the bottom. Yes.
Okay. Cynthia Turner.
Yes.
Okay. There is an alumni breakfast first Saturday of each month, East High School, at the Golden Corral on Main Street. Mm-hmm. So anybody would like to come, you're welcome to come.
Well, I would like to go to the next one is in next month. Well, it's March.
March, right? First Saturday of each month,
okay.
East High School.
But we really are going to have to also look at the elementary schools. You look at Champion, you look at Trevor, you look at Fairwood. Because if they're not doing a basic job of teaching, then it doesn't matter what happens. I mean, it doesn't matter when they get to the end.
Right.
East High School is the 12th grade, because by then it's too late.
Right.
Mm-hmm. They take the state exam, they can't pass it. So you've got to go back. Mm-hmm. And there has been some concern expressed about the leadership at Champion. Now, whether that is replicated at the other elementary and junior high schools, I don't know. But there is that kind of concern.
Well, we have to do something, and yes.
Yeah, a couple of things. I'm Marty Sutton.
Marty.
Are you familiar with how much the school gets for each IEP?
No, I don't.
You don't?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a dollar amount going into that. The federal government pays for those IEPs. That's one. So first thing,
They have the, but in reference that he was asking, do I know the amount of money that the government gives every child that's signed up for an IEP, special education? You know, so the government funds that. So so therefore, the more they get signed up, the more money they get. So again, we're just there as an economic engine. But go ahead. Yeah.
second, what happens with the elementary school and the middle school? Is like she said that there's a disconnect. The disconnect starts at the elementary level. The gangs are at the middle school level. If you don't get the kids at the younger stage, the elementary schools, you're gonna lose them. You lose them coming up through high school.
Right.
That's a fact, and that's how I ran my program.
Mm-hmm.
We tried to get them at the young, elementary level. We couldn't start at the top. It's hard to start at the top and work your way down. You gotta work your way up.
Okay. Well, we're going to look into that, and I'm going to
We'll go further and hopefully everything, we have some additional information next month and to see where we're going with this process. But it's a real shocker. And we haven't heard anything more about it, but it's there, it's a reality. So we're going to look into it and next month have some kind of report as to what was done or what we can do to help with that process.
We really need to look at the busing, because is it really necessary at this point if the students do not have an allegiance to the school that they are attending?
Right. Yeah. And another thing that's happening is that kids are being bussed into this to keep the school open. You know, so yeah, it's really a different kind of situation today. It needs a real review. But again, no engagement from the board to the community. You know, it's like a secret service, you know, a secret order. You know, so we have to get in there and find out what's going on. And that's what I'll do over the next day. All right. We have an issue with the taxes being elevated, not only with the school levy, but the whole process. We have someone here who's going to speak with that a little bit later. And they have a couple of programs I got information on, PTAP, and she's going to talk about that. But, you know, and I'm going to say this in a small kind of way. You know, this hike in taxes did not come with Moses on some stone tablets out of the sky. Human beings presented it, assessed it, and then voted on it. Because this can't happen unless people voted on it. We have people in all these areas of legislation, and what we're saying is that those representatives that are voted into spot that are supposed to have our interests should have informed the community. One, it is that if they could not legislate it and have support to say that this is going to affect the people in the neighborhood differently, then they should have came to the community and made and advised us and encouraged us to come to the State House, to come to the county and protest and say this is not going to work for us. But no one in the elected realm of these legislators came to the community and said, we need your help. If we voted them into place and they can't have the majority to sway things to be modified, then you come to the people that voted for you. There's no history of any of them coming and saying this tax hike is going to happen. And how is it going to affect the seniors? How is it going to affect those? And if you can't, our legislators, either they voted for it or they voted against it. So either way, we don't know. But you should have came to the people and said, come to the State House, come to the county, and encourage. That's what they're there for, not to negotiate things on a quiet side and not. If it has to go up, then that's fine. But then engage the citizens in the governance that you elected them to do. And if when you're up against the wall as the legislator, then your back is us, the people, to say, okay, let's see how we can modify it. Or let's create something different. For seniors, you know, on the front end, if you've been in your place for so many years, you get this. Under this, they can create something that will work for the seniors. Now we're doing the pound of cure instead of the ounce of prevention. And I mean, yeah, they're working, and we're going to hear some of the programming, but what we are doing now is reacting. Where's our legislators on the front end? That we could have created a program that was a win-win. But we didn't hear that. Nor does any history or any documentation where they said, people come and let's have, the people came out to meetings. At NEAC, they had people coming in talking, but it wasn't there. That was the aftermath. In America, as we still have it, God knows what's going to happen next time, but that when people come down and as collective people on an issue or topic, you can then move the legislation to give you something that is palatable to both you and the governance or the government. That wasn't, it was all decided with the legislators as to how, we came out and said this was going to happen. They did assessments of properties. Okay, but what is the plan? I mean, we know about tax abatements for businesses and how they work, but we say we have a lot of seniors that have houses and that, put them in a bind. Some taxes going up twice as much, 3 times as much. So instead of having it come out where people are now stressed, it should have been thought about how to come up with a system to make it work. So but we're going to hear more about that a little bit later, and then we'll introduce our guest. And again, Brownsville Neighborhood Association is trying to keep on top of things, so we try to bring people in that can help us. But we're not here to attack, we're here to enlighten and go from there. And then we can attack later, but I'm not first.
I'm not a legislator.
So anyway, okay, any questions about that? We can hear more, and we will get more, Beth will give us a little bit more stuff. One other thing that we have that's really exciting for us, put this on your calendars, is March 22nd from 2 to 4 o'clock at the Lincoln Theater. We are going to have the launching of the BCN, the Brownsville Communications Network. And it is so fantastic because it started here at Bethany a couple of years ago, and from the bottom up, had help support from Bob Lynch, Bruce, and Marty. And I'm going to ask Marty, and if Bruce wants to say something, just a few words on what it is. And I'm telling you, it is. Sliced bread was good, but this is even a little bit better than sliced bread. And that's a generational thing. Only those who know about having bread that wasn't sliced know the importance of a sliced bread. But anyway, we have Marty, something to at least give an overview. But again, put that on your dates. Come to the Lincoln. It's open to the public. There'll be some light refreshments, and then we will get into a program from 2 to 4 in the ballroom of the Lincoln Theater to launch this magnificent program and product, as the IT people say, and he will explain an overview for you.
Do we have to pay for it?
Yes, it is not this time, but you pay for just coming with your time and your precious time. That's the only thing you have to pay for. It's all open and free to the public. It's free, but you only pay by just coming, taking your time, and we want you there. So it's all free, open to the public, and we'll be glad. So he's going to give us a brief overview of what it is and the last 2 years, and with him working on it, and Bob and Bruce and other members of the community to make this a reality. This is grand for us.
Right. Well, thank you. Let me say this. And if anybody knows me when I have conversations with people, you don't realize it, but you may be contributing to what I'm doing. So it's more than Bruce and Bob, and it's you, it's everybody. Anybody I have a conversation with, I try to learn from. So that is how the Brownsville Communications Network came about. It is for communication. It is for the community to be able to communicate rapidly. There are we have our video section on there, and we tend to elevate businesses in the Brownsville community. We want to elevate students at East, at Champion, at Trevor. We want to elevate because without the communication piece, how do we know when somebody's doing well in our community? The object here is to make sure that we know everything going on around us as quickly as possible, to try to deviate from the past after it happens. This is not a reaction thing. We want, as Willis said, we want to get in front of it. We want to get in front of what goes on in our community. If somebody needs help, well, go here. It's on there. There are resources on there for this, on this website and the app. I tried to make sure that I covered every single base over the last 3 years. This is, and Willis reminds me of this, I like that. But this didn't just happen. This happened over a 3-year period, 2 different apps, making one app into 3 into 1. I'm doing this for the Bronzeville community because my mom, I didn't realize, my mom grew up in Bronzeville. I went to church at Trinity. My dad grew up just over the bridge, but it was probably Bronzeville before it broke down, you know. But I'm from this community. It's a part of me now. So that's the Bronzeville Communications Network. And may I add, because this is important too, history. The history of this community, completely, as I studied it and continue to study and continue to learn, blew me away. I'm totally blown away by the history alone. And it hurts my heart to what had happened to this community. It really hurts me. So that's the Bronzeville Communications.
And Bruce, do you have anything to add?
What I would just add to that is, it came about after feedback from the community when we asked what were the top issues that needed to be addressed to make the community more vibrant. And one of those top items was communications. And what people said is, we have some world-class programs that are going on in one block, and just 3 to 4 or 5 blocks over, people didn't know about it. And so they were occurring, but we weren't getting enough attendance, and then those programs would have to shut down. So it was just saying, we have great things going on, let's make sure we're doing a better job of communicating that. And so this communication both will be an app, and then some old school, just flyers for some of those folks that works for them. But it also just reinforced what was said by Marty, which is, this has been developed with community. They've been working on this over the past several years to develop space now, but it's not that we're going to stop there. We're going to make sure that we are advertising what is occurring in the neighborhood and make sure we're fully utilizing it. So thank you for everyone's support, and we look forward to seeing you there at the Lincoln Theater for the launch.
That's right. Well, as advertisements do on TV, I gotta say it again. March 22nd from 2 to 4 at the Lincoln Theater Ballroom. Everyone be there. You'll be seeing things. We are working on putting together our invitation list, and then our PR, all that's being worked on with Marty and others. So we would just be, Dana and myself will be the legs to get this done. They're the experts about getting it out there. And just before I move on to our Vice President's report of the development, we are honored to have, they're going to say something a little bit later, Ms. Rita Smith, and she has something a little bit about Pointer, and she's also been featured on this. When you go on the BCN, Bronzeville Communication Network, you will see her telling her story. And we are now pushing our other wonderful guest and matriarch in our neighborhood besides Mrs. Smith is Mrs. Walker to get on the video. We got to schedule a time for her to tell her story. Let's work. I know it's a surprise. We're working on it.
I don't know.
Yeah, don't worry. You're going to know. We're going to get to you. Don't worry. Very soon, Marty will be calling you and get you on the video telling your story. And we're going to keep these. You know, Library of Congress keeps all the things that are important. We're going to create our own Library of Congress, Library of Bronzeville. You know, so we can send copies to the Library of Congress, but we're going to keep them here. And with that, I will, if any other questions, and appreciate that. Dana Mason, our Vice President, will start with our development news.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming out. And again, Dana Mason, our Vice President of the Bronzeville Neighborhood Association. And it's wonderful to be back home. This is our first meeting when we originally started many years ago for a long time. And Bethany Presbyterian has been wonderful to house us, let us have meetings here. And they've redone the meeting room, the basement, beautiful new floor, paint, everything's so nice. It's so nice to be back here. And all the community that is not here today, please come back. It's a very friendly space. We look forward to seeing you here. Remember, it's in the basement at Bethany Presbyterian. And there is so much happening in the neighborhood. I know I say that every month, but it's very true. And there's new things that are happening. And one of the things that is come up is the city of Columbus is very interested in pedestrian and vehicular safety in our immediate area, which is wonderful. We've been talking about it for many years. There's two separate studies, programs, and viability studies for what can be done and when taking place now as we speak. We have the Broad Street is doing a demonstration project, and we had a meeting about 2 weeks ago at the Martin Luther King Library at Taylor and Long in the Bronxville neighborhood. We had 2 city people from Department of Development and a good community turnout. And the discussion where on the Broad Street corridor, which goes from Parsons to the west to Nelson Road to the east, is what can we do to make it a safer place, both for pedestrians who want to cross the street and for cars who want to traverse down the street. Because there's kind of 2 situations there. You have those in the community who use the street and go over it, go through it frequently. And then it's a pass-through street for people from who knows where, and it's like one of those situations where they want to get through as fast as they can. Well, that's the situation that's making a mess. So the city recognizes the problem. Both President Brown and myself were on the Near East Area Commission for many years, and the current commission has been talking about this for years. So now we're to the point where the city is asking for input. And the commission's had meetings. We had a community meeting, and they've come here and they've spoken to us. But basically, you got to slow down traffic. We're talking about a road diet, so that means maybe making lanes slower. And those of us in this immediate area all know what's happened with Bexley. As soon as you cross Nelson Road, going through Bexley till you get to James Road, it's a very different street. It's a very pleasant street. Traffic slows down. There's no reason why we couldn't have the same here. So there's been various possibilities that have been discussed, but it's exciting that it's seriously being considered by the city. And they also apparently have a contract where they want to repave Broad Street from Parsons to Nelson in the next 2 years. So hopefully we can have some combination of traffic calming actions taking place with the actual surface improvements. Now, the next big thing we had at the same meeting was a discussion what they're calling a slow zone demonstration project area. Now, again, Bronxville's excited about this. So the city has identified this is a demonstration project. So they're going to be doing things here that if they're successful, can be used in other parts of the city. And the boundaries that they have identified are Long Street to the south, Atchison to the north, Hamilton to the west, and the river to the east, Allen Creek. So that's a rather large area. But as the city said, you can't make traffic-altering changes to 1 or 2 streets, meaning speed bumps, narrowing the street, additional stop signs, crosswalks. If you do it on only 1, 2, 3 streets, guess what? It just moves over 1, 2, 3 streets. It doesn't solve anything. So you have to have a large enough area that it makes an impact. We all agree on it. And we made it clear we're excited about the city picking us. We have pleaded, we have begged, we said, we'll be your guinea pigs. Let us do it to us. So they're going to do all kinds of possibilities. They're going to test that stuff, see if it actually works. And so they had this flyer that they sent out in the meeting, and it could be things such as temporary speed bumps, what they call speed cushions, rubberized medians, gateway treatments where you shorten the width of the street and you make kind of barriers so you funnel through it and then you're back out into a street. And there's pavement markings amongst the various things they're talking about, which is really exciting. But this is not unique to Columbus. This is happening in Europe. Major cities are doing the same thing. In the United States, cities are doing the same thing. In Columbus, believe it or not, downtown, the speed limit is 25 miles an hour. All streets. A lot of people don't want to do that, don't understand it, or don't believe it. When they come in from other areas, it's like 50 miles an hour down Long Street. It's 25. We want to have this area like that too, which is nice because we have two particular categories which need the protection of the community. Your seniors and your children. And I don't know how many times myself and my mother and Willis and others of us on Monroe, just one block over, see somebody flying down the street 60 miles an hour on a residential street. Well, those days are going to be gone when they start doing this. And it's a wonderful program. We'll see what happens. And again, nothing is permanent, so it's a demonstration project, and they're experimenting. So they may do some things that make sense, some things that don't make sense, but they're doing something, which is wonderful. And then they
got $1 million from the federal government to implement that. So
and they
it's gonna
chose
happen.
us to do it first, which is nice. And the other thing that's happening, speaking of transportation, there's several transportation stands here, is we're having renewed conversation about passenger rail. And Columbus is the largest city without passenger rail. We used to have it go right through the center of the city, right where the convention center is now. So finally, the state legislatures, the city, and the railroad, Amtrak and all those guys are now talking. So conceivably, in the future, we could have a train station right downtown the center where the convention center is. And I say that because this is back to the future. I keep saying that about this neighborhood because we had so many things in the 20s, 30s, and 40s that we have lost, that we're not fighting to get back, that are slowly coming back, that were assets to this community. And one of those is passenger rail. Now, there's not too many in this room that were here at that time when I'm going to talk about, but October 12, 1940, President Franklin D. Roosevelt got off the train downtown where the convention center is, the Union train station. He was in a special railroad car. They opened it up. He shot out in his fancy car. He took off down Mount Vernon. He came east. He drove through Poindexter. He waved at everyone. Waved, and we got all kinds of pictures of him in the car. And James Madison, who was at that time a member of the Brownsville cabinet, he was there. He was the resident manager of Poindexter, which was started in 1940. Well, President Roosevelt came through to acknowledge that. It was also right before the November election of 1940. Ohio was another one of those states that wobbled back and forth between Democrats and Republicans. So he made a presence here. Then he went down Broad Street and shot downtown. And there's a big event parade because that was back in the days when it was Columbus Day. Now it's Indigenous Peoples Day, but that time it was Columbus Day. And then he shot back up and got on the train. He was out of here. And it was just less than 2 hours. So, you can see, that's an amazing thing to have that access to a major transportation artery that takes you anywhere in the country. We want that back. And it's only a mile away from us. That's as important as the freeways or anything else. So then the other thing we come to is East Long Street, there at Elijah Pierce, where the new bridge goes over. And I've said this frequently, we have a major traffic bottleneck hazard situation. When you're going East Long Street from Hamilton going west, you come to Elijah Pierce right there at 71, it suddenly turns into one way. And you have all this traffic flying out of downtown. A lot of people don't care what the speed limit is. There's been over 10 accidents since that bridge is open, and they're terrible accidents. And the same thing happens at Leicester and Long Street, which is on the other side of the bridge. What we need to do is have a two-way bridge all the way down. Long Street should be two-way all the way down to Cleveland Avenue. That'll help calm some of that down. But somebody's going to be killed there. It's a terrible intersection. And then the other thing,
But and this is one stop there. When they put that in, the city was telling us that they can't make it a two-way because ODOT designed it so it can't be. We then went to ODOT. ODOT confirmed that that bridge, that cap, is designed for two-way traffic. So that ended that conversation.
right, and that
Because
was
the
in the same
city,
meeting.
the city doesn't want to do it.
Right.
So that means it's clear. It's designed for that, for two-way.
Right. When there was conversation about the cap, the bridge with the history wall and all that, there was a public meeting with the health department several years ago. And city people were there and state people were there. One side of the room, the city traffic people were saying, no, it can only be one way. So we went over across the room to the other side and talked to the state highway people. Oh, that's built to take two way. You can do anything the city wants to do. So we know what the truth is. But seriously, for people's well-being, it needs to be two-way. Also helps with traffic calming, which the city is promoting. So then we come to the situation where we now have several churches in the community that are joining the fight for housing, for affordable housing. And we have Shiloh, which has done a wonderful job with the Kelly Group, with their project in Hamilton and Mount Vernon. And we know that there are other churches that are working for housing. And we're just giving a heads up to all these churches. If you come to the Bronxville Neighborhood Association, this meeting, at your leisure, when you feel appropriate and you think you have a project with your developer, come to us first before you go to the commission. It'll make the project flow much better. You'll be much happier. We can give you some advice and input, and the commission will appreciate you going through the process that way. It just makes it easier, because if you go to the commission first, you're still going to have to come here, and then you're going to have to undo, and it just gets ugly. So we're excited that the churches want to do these things, but please pay us a visit. Call us. Call President Brown, and we can have a friendly meeting in here. Give suggestions. You get true community input. So please consider that. And then the other big item is we go to the Wexner OSU Hospital over on Taylor. That we have some major development going on the other corner of our neighborhood, over at Taylor, Leonard, and 670. And that's where CarePoint East is. And a year ago, January, early days of February, there was a community meeting at Trinity Baptist Church. February 6th, actually. This is February 10th, just over a year ago. At Trinity Baptist on St. Clair. Wonderful community turnout. OSU had their people up there at the front for the Wexner, and OSU Hospital East people were there. And they made a presentation. That the big thing was how to appropriately acknowledge the Hayes Henderson House at Atchison and Taylor. And the community said, no, we don't want to honor it, acknowledge it. It's still going to be there. So after much community input, which was a little bit different than OSU Wexner anticipated, but with all the community input, they decided that, yes, it had to stay, because it is a historic house that President Hayes was in, and the Henderson family has had for many years. That was recently acquired by OSU. So Columbus Landmarks has been in the mix, and they've done a thorough study. And so the latest situation with that is we, the community, have recommended to OSU Wexner that we can't make a recommendation for what the Hayes Henderson House property should be, should do, should look at, how it should function, until we know what you want to do. So we're saying the community has to know, OSU Wexners, we need to know your master plan for the Taylor, Leonard, Health Corridor, the OSU Wexner Corridor. That's all corridor. It goes all the way to Broad Street, all the way to 670. It's going to impact Leonard. It's going to impact that whole area around Atchison that goes west from Taylor. A lot of those people may not know it. They may think they're out isolated. They're not. They're in the very center of the action. So we want to know the master plan, because there's no way the community can afford to make any recommendations, any proposals, any hopeful thoughts about that very historic but small house in the larger context. It's not fair to the community to put the onus on us to come up with something that wouldn't work if it doesn't make sense with what they're going to do. So,
And with that, there was a meeting recently with the ad hoc committee, and we had a December 6th meeting where the committee came, that Vice President Dana was present and some others were present, and the community made some suggestions. You know, we heard from the community, a nonprofit, a housing, a nonprofit, a study, a museum, a combination, resident, how Amina Robinson's house is, taking from that, and so they're different ideas. But what came up out of there, and what Vice President Mason has stated, that we can't go any further. So what OSU is going to do is do a feasibility study on these ideas. But we said that a feasibility study can only be valid if it also includes how do you enhance the land around it, because the house is actually small, but you can build a classroom, you can build things that people can have. You can have jazz concerts, you can have weddings, how it used to be, but they have cannibalized some of that land already for their future development. So we're saying you have to give a study on the land around it, the house, and also to finalize it, we have to know, community and all, what OSU plan is. We can't go down this rabbit hole, and next thing we know, OSU is building a $500 million structure next door, and we out here looking for money. We need to be a part of that too. And we know that Taylor Quarter, they're going to do something with it. So we put that out there at the meeting last week, and they said they're going to look into that when they do the feasibility to incorporate this extended assessment of the adjacent area and what will cost to do certain things. So we said that's a good start, but we have to know OSU is like the quiet storm. They know they want to do something. The Dodge Hall that was supposed to come where the Henderson House is, the new director of the medical center has said that building that they were going to put there was too small, and they are designing a bigger building. So it's a good thing that the community said, no, we want to stay, but we could have lost that building because it was slated to be demoed, and we would have been left with a vacant spot, like what happened to Mount Vernon. When they demoed the building on Mount Vernon for urban renewal, it remained vacant for 10 years until Carter came and with the dedication of the Mount Vernon Plaza. But in 10 years, we had over 10,000 people that left the area and just sat there. So we would have had the same situation at Atchison and Taylor. So now we won't have that, and we got to go to the next level of that process.
So we want to be a good faith partner with this relationship with OSU Wexner Hospitals. We, the community, you need our support. We need your support. We need to work together to come up with a big plan to include all this together. It'll be a wonderful project.
Yeah. And we're going to move a little bit past our time,
So
but it's
now,
okay.
Now we're coming to the
one second before you introduce our thing. There's two things I wanted to add to the prep report. One, that we are working with another group, another body for a grocery store. We have 3 options that we are looking at. One is Phillips Pharmacy. Chris passed away. His sons are in charge of it. And we're still working with him to maybe convert that into a grocery store. That's number one. Number two is a multi-purpose building, which is across from the Lincoln. We sent them a rendering or a drawing of what it could be across from the Lincoln, that vacant lot that Equitas parks on. What we are proposing there is a parking garage in the center, residential around on Garfield and swinging around along to apartments on top, townhouses on Garfield, and the retail will be a 10,000 square foot grocery store. So the city owns the land, and we've been in communication with the city to release, or we're coming to agreement so we can do that. They're kind of slowing up a little bit, we don't know, but we're in communication with them because they own it. So we have to, Equitas is in support because they need the parking. The community is in support because we have the Jazz Fest, we have businesses coming, we need parking. So we don't want to be like the Short North and come after the fact. We want to be better than the Short North and deal with it on the front end. So we're working with that now. So we'll give you updates. And the third spot is possibly a freestanding building further down Long Street where it encompasses some of the Second Baptist property that faces Long Street. So we're talking with we're going to be talking with them about option, C. You have A with Mount Vernon, B with the multi-unit building, multi-use building, and then C being that of the freestanding building, we incorporate Second Baptist front there. But we're going to be talking with them as well. So that's coming. Just got to get the city to work with us on that. And then with that being the case, we also have another guest. We'll get him to say a few words. Our state rep, state representative, Mr. Dontavius Gerald is here, and he will say something later on, and we will get to him quickly. But we have, now Dana is going to introduce our guest speaker, and then she's going to speak about that.
We're happy to have a guest today from Michael Scinciano's Franklin County Auditor's Office to talk about the taxes, which we alluded to a little bit earlier. It's Beth Berriman-Kinney, Director of Community Outreach.
Yes.
And take it away.
Thank you. Is this okay for me to
Yeah,
get in this
it's
corner?
good.
Okay. So I brought a bunch of colors. So hi everybody. So I am Beth Berriman-Kinney with the Auditor's Office. I'm very happy to be here today. So as you shared a little bit about property values, so that's why I'm here. So as you know, property values across the county went up approximately 40% during the reappraisal last year. Okay, so that's across the county. I'm going to say for class 1, so this is residential and agricultural properties, the pre-levy property tax increase was 6.12%. And then, of course, with the election, the voter-approved levies added an additional 6% of tax across the whole county. So therefore, countywide, on average, this translates to about an approximately 12% increase in property taxes. Now, the average across Franklin County equates to an average of this is for our house of $186,287,000 in 2022, and then $259,378 in 2023. Equates to an average of change of 279 pre-levy tax and 546 post-levy. So that's where I'm saying. So I'm going to talk about the values and how you can have ask us for a change. So the Board of Revision. So I brought some flyers about the Board of Revision property. So it was established so that we can answer your valuation complaints. Any property owner in Franklin County can contest their value by filing a complaint form, and I did bring some of them with me today. You do have to submit some evidence to support your value reduction, and that could be comparable sales documents if you bought it recently. Also they do have appraised value. So a property owner can only apply for this once in a 3-year period, okay, unless there's a property transfer for casualty of the property. So this 3-year period restarts every triennial update or the sexennial reappraisal, which is what we just had. We are going to be at 30 locations across the county. So we've already started in January. So near you, I will say we'll be at the Martin Luther King Library on March 2nd. We were at Franklin, we were at the Latin Community House earlier this morning. And at all of these locations, these are walk-in clinics. You don't need an appointment. And you'll come in and we'll have team members who will help you fill out this document if you disagree with the value, and then we'll submit that. So you can do that all the way up until April 1st is the last day to file the Board of Revision. We also have this program, the Homeowner Assistance Program. So this is a partnership with the Legal Aid Society. This is entering our 4th year of this program. And this program increases access to the Board of Revision process for households that have less than $75,000 in annual income. You could do this in person or via Zoom. The Zoom clinics I know are popular, but you do need an appointment for this process. And as I said, this will have access to the Legal Aid Society with that, and no person. We have some other property tax assistance programs. So I know that you actually have flyers for the property tax assistance program. And then we also have our homestead exemption. Anybody in the room already on homestead? Okay. So we do have one person. So we do, and I apologize, I did not bring flyers for the homestead. I can email you so you can share that. So the homestead exemption, in 2004, the homestead exemption for seniors and disabled persons allowed eligible homeowners to exempt the first $26,200 of their appraised value from taxation. Okay? So to qualify, you need to own and occupy the home, be age 65 or older, and be totally or be permanently disabled. And then also you need a household income that does not exceed the amount set by state law. And this is where we're going to look at Representative Girls. When we talk about state law with the homestead exemption. But yeah, so currently the current year the income requirement is $38,600. And that is set by the state. So this is when I joked earlier that I am not a legislator. We are with the auditor's office. We are administering some of these programs. And my job, of course, is trying to get this information out to the public. The PTAP program, which is the Property Tax Assistance Program, thank you, which is here. So this is another program. This is for qualifying homeowners with a one-time emergency assistance in paying those property taxes. So you can apply for this. There's 2 applications. So for the second half of the tax year, you can apply for it by April 19th. And then to be eligible, you need to make sure you have a temporary or emergency need for assistance, age 60 or older, and then there's also an income requirement with this. So those are the 2 property tax assistance program, homestead and property tax assistance program. I've got information for the Board of Revision. Has anyone been to our website recently to see the updates? Franklin County Auditor? Okay, I'm going to let you know. So if you go to the Franklin County Auditor's website, last year with the reappraisal, we launched the Know Your Home Value website. And one of the tools is that you can actually look at your home value, your new value, and look at also what's in your neighborhood. So you can see what the recent sales are. You can see if your neighbor's home is valued differently than yours. So those are some of the updates with the website. So you can compare your home value with your neighbors, which is great, especially as we're talking about right now, people have complaints about their value. Some other updates, I will say we just finished dog license season, but you can still buy a dog license if you would like. And we are here to help you. Our phone number, you can always call us by phone, 614-525-HOME, which is 4663. And if you have any questions, you can email Auditor Cinciano and franklincounty.ohio.gov. And I would love to share, I would love to see I brought a bunch of these, I brought over 50, so you can take them with your neighbors. And so if your neighbors are telling you, hey, I'd like to talk to somebody about this bill, I know the tax bill was due. We do encourage people, if you have questions about the tax bill, you have to go through the treasurer's office to ask about their payment plan or dealing with the bill. But when it comes to the value, which may affect your taxes, That's where we're here to help. So can I ask any questions?
Yes, yeah, you have time for the
I got some time for questions. Yes.
Okay, once you fill out the form, does that stop the penalties from occurring on late taxes?
So what I would recommend, so once you fill out the form, if you already have penalties, talk to the treasurer's office. You can they have to make that determination. So let them know I'm filing the board of revision, but I cannot say if it's going to stop that. So call the treasurer's office. But yes.
Any other questions? Yes.
As one of your seniors,
Yes.
my concern in terms of people identifying seniors that need assistance, they don't have computers, they don't communicate, or no one communicates with them. They are not here, and I'm concerned, and I'm going to tell you the truth. Excuse me, Mother Walker? I'm pissed at how seniors have been handled under this tax increase. Most of them receive Social Security once a month. They don't have a big savings account. In my situation, I got a notice on the 12th of January that my taxes were due on the 31st, and they went up over $1,500. Now, as a senior, I'm lucky that I may have heard and have access, but I'm concerned about the lady down the street that doesn't have a computer, doesn't have children. I gotta have my grandkids to come over to fix my TV, you know? I can't communicate.
That's not funny.
It really is not funny when you're talking about seniors and needing the assistance and not having the resources there available to them. It is. So I'm with you, 150%.
They didn't do a survey of the residents of your community to let them know that this was coming. 2 weeks, you want me to change what I can afford to do?
So I'm going to agree. And I'm agreeing with you because, so the bill came from the treasurer's office. So that when we had the reappraisal last year, you received a notice in, I think it was like August, that said your new property value. And that value, so we couldn't estimate the taxes at the time because of the fact we had, there was a levy that we didn't know how voters were going to take, but we did share your new value back in August. There would have been a letter from our office. With the
But
bill,
I didn't know my taxes were gonna go up $1,500 more than I already had budgeted for.
and that's when, so I would say call the treasurer's office to see if you can get it to me and be on the plan.
I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about those other seniors.
I know, yeah. So.
And they don't have, I got that notice, it didn't tell me how much money, a possibility. And if I'm halfway knowledgeable, I'm really scared about people being taxed out of their homes at the very stage of their life that they should be enjoying their homes. I'm sorry, excuse me for being upset.
No, it's okay.
But you take tax out of your home at the same time, you're giving them 15% tax abatement to new folks moving in, haven't been here yet.
Yeah.
And they're moving in on something that we've established for 30 years.
Right.
That's a big difference. If anything, it should be them.
So,
And I'm just speaking for those other
no, and
seniors.
I appreciate you. That's why I am here today, and I brought lots of flyers. So take this information back to your neighbors. We have tried, our office, we have tried going out, we leave flyers at the senior centers, we've tried to share information about our programs. We have worked with our friends in Senior Options with Franklin County Office on Aging, and where we have some of those discussions about how do we continue. So I know I'm trying to share with our friends with aging, so therefore we can get that information. So do please share. Because for us, if you can tell your neighbors, at least you can try to talk about the values.
And what you might think about doing is how are you communicating with those persons that have limited opportunities to have someone to help them? You ought to be going to on a Sunday morning, you should have a crew at every church talking so that they will know about these things. Your meetings are wonderful. How will you get that information out to those people to get them to know that they have a meeting that they can go to? Go to church.
Have another
We
question?
have talked with pastors, yes.
A long time ago when I was 18, we used to do consensus. And if we do a consensus on these people every so many months, before they get to the point where they have to face that, go around person to person, knock on the door, ask them squad. When you're left with that will give them more information. Everybody don't participate. I'm older, I'm a senior.
Yeah.
But everybody don't look at that machine. Like the kids play the Nintendo's on games, your hands all wrapped up in TikTok and crazy stuff. That's why they can't get to another level. But what you're telling us as seniors, and I've read in papers and everything, in every different state, when these companies are going under, even if the people have been in the company for 20, 30 years, that stops their payroll. That stops everything. What the husband work for, what the wife work for, or whatever, you know? But people need to know. I mean, you can send a person, it'd be very easy to send a person, door to door, knock on the doors, and let them know. And do a consensus, or ask them to come down to a certain place, and do a consensus on where they stand or where their money is at this point. Because later on, it's not going to matter. Because they're just going to sweep it right from under you.
And this is good information. And right
No, I appreciate that.
and what's going to happen after is our representative is going to speak.
Well, so I will do a pitch over. So one of the things is that with our senior.
I'll walk right into this.
So-
I'm sorry. One question. I think I've seen this. Pam Shields sent this to me.
Good.
And it was put on our network.
Thank you.
But I think even though you're going to email Willis, anytime you have information, I think it's important to get the information out. And that's what I want to do. But it's also important for people to talk about the information on that network that's being sent out.
Yeah, that would be great. And if you've got more kind of, so we have, I know you mentioned the area commission. We presented them with them a few times. And I know I'm trying to continually keep your neighborhood liaison in the loop. So we're constantly trying to make sure whatever avenues we can get information out, we are trying. So, and that's why I said that letter that did go out with the value. When it comes to senior programs, so with the homestead program, we know that it is limited. I know that the state has had some things in the process, but that is something, once again, that is state, not doing a soft pitch over here, but it's one of those things that is not in our control. We can administer the program and share the program and give the information, but as far as those guidelines, and we too, that's why I'm glad I'm here. That's why I reached out. So therefore, I wanted to make sure that everybody knows, come out and see us. We're going to be in your neighborhood. We're at Martin Luther King Library. We're going to be at the Near East Pride Center on March 22nd. So those are the two that are closest to you. And then we also do have an affordable housing resource fair. This spring will be on the west side of Hiltonia, but we do our office hosts 2 of those a year, in which we bring in a lot of different resources, everything from home repair to if we have people who are looking at first-time home buyers. So it's a little bit of everything, and we will have that on March 9th at Hiltonia.
And one other question. Could you give us a rough idea what the increase was in residential property taxes, homeowner taxes, between 70 to the south, 670 to the north, 71 to the west, and Alum Creek, the Near East Area Commission area, which includes us? What roughly was the increase?
So I don't have that off the top of my head, but I know that if you give me time, I can go back to the office, and because we did look at. If you go to that Compare Your Home tool, you can actually look at the neighborhood. But we can look at, I know that when we presented to NEAC last year, we shared, because one of the things with the reappraisal is those property sales. And we know that the sales in this neighborhood,
Have been hot.
it's a hot neighborhood. The whole Columbus, it's hot, the whole Franklin County. I mean, there's so many things that go into having that hot real estate. I mean, we have a lot of people moving in. What is it, 40 new people a day moving into Franklin County? and we don't have enough housing stock, as you were just talking about the housing, that's going in the community. So we know that there's all these factors, and this neighborhood is so convenient, as you know. So I can look that
I'll
up,
send it to me.
and I will send it to you, and you can share, and we can see what the numbers. But as I said, if you want to, anybody who wants to go home today, you look at compare your home value to
Well, maybe our
Cool, right there on
Aries
one
Mayor
side.
Commissioner knows what that number is.
I honestly don't remember the
Oh,
number,
okay.
but I remember in the news, we were rated one of the highest
Yeah.
areas in
Right.
Increase.
the assessment.
And I want you to give your card to Mr. Marty, and
Yeah.
and send everything you can. Send it to him. Yeah, he will get. He has his network coming on. So great. And with that being said, any other questions for Beth? If not, give her a round of applause.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, good. And we're going to turn to our representative. And I say this with pride and deep respect for our representative Gerald, because he's a man of his word. I mean, I remember him when he was young out here doing some of the young damage and coming around and knocking on the door on Monroe. But and we had conversations then. And he's one that if he said he's going to do something, he's going to do it. He's here as often as he can at our meetings. Yes. So we have an old-time young man who knows how to do the politics. So we have to put pressure on him and things like this. As we heard Mrs. Smith reference the frustration, we have to press on him to be accountable to do something or bring people to bear how we can do something. So I'm going to turn the floor over to him for a brief moment so that we can see and talk and hear. And then we have a comment from our commissioner, who's always here, can give people a few updates and keep us going on to inform everyone outside. We have over 100 people that view us as we do our meetings, so that's nice to know. So good.
Well, first off, thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to be here. I had to come through the kitchen. I was like, I haven't done that before. But it's good to be here. A couple of things about property taxes. Obviously, we in the legislature have had just a number of conversations. Currently, there's a property tax subcommittee that's currently making their way in the Senate around the state, talking about what type of relief can we provide in the immediate, but also in the future when it comes to property taxes. Right now, there's conversation around increasing the homestead exemption. There's also conversations around what does it mean to maybe even provide some immediate support by reducing the amount you all are going to pay based upon the 3 median average of your home valuation rather than this particular home valuation that you all are being assessed on right now. There's a lot happening. We had House Bill 187 that passed out of the House back in November of last year with bipartisan support. And while it wasn't a perfect bill, it was the Property Tax Home Relief Act. And it was a bill that would have done a number of things to provide relief in the immediate future. Unfortunately, that bill has stalled in the Senate. And thus, here we are in a position where while we wanted to see relief for our neighbors, that unfortunately has not come to pass. And there's a lot of, I don't know how much time I got, but there's a lot of just consternation between the two chambers right now. And we're just somewhat on opposite ends on this issue when it comes to solutions. And so what I will tell you is my colleagues in the Democratic caucus, but also working alongside across the aisle, is working on a number of standalone bills. We have a bill by Representative Dan Troy that's increasing the property taxes, property homestead exemption to a higher income threshold. Right now it's about $32,000. I don't know about you, but that takes a lot of our seniors out of the eligibility of the homestead exemption. Right. Exactly. And so we have to increase that to in the new realities of what our seniors are actually receiving. Right. So we have a bill that's working on that. We have a bill that's working on creating ways in which we can assess property valuations differently. There's a lot of ideas on this issue because, interestingly enough, in the rural parts of Ohio, there are farmland, interestingly enough, that's gone up 110% in property tax valuation. 110%.
What's in rural?
Right? Right? Which is one of the reasons why we're seeing bipartisan what I would say, anger amongst the constituencies related to addressing this issue. And for the first time, I mean, we've been talking about trying to do fixed property taxes for years now. But unfortunately, colleagues on the other side, they didn't see it didn't impact them, right? They impacted Democratic cities and areas and not rural land, and now it's impacting everybody. And so whatever it's going to take for us, you will see some movement on this issue. It just hasn't happened yet. And I apologize on behalf of the GA. I wish we would have got this thing done sooner, but we're going to do something, and we're continually fighting. The one thing I will say is, because I know the Franklin County Treasurer's Office is not here, I know Treasurer Sherbrooke Sullivan, and she will love me for saying this, so I want to make sure I say it. We have the STAR Fund, and the STAR Fund is the opportunity to, if you are struggling with your property taxes for whatever reason, you can talk and call this Treasurer's Office to see if you're eligible for a STAR Fund. It will provide some relief and support for you. The other thing too is you can get on a payment plan. As someone who's worked in a Treasurer's Office prior to becoming elected, we had lots of conversations around how do we help families who have seen their property taxes increase, and how do we provide a level of support where you can get on a payment plan to pay off your taxes. And so there's a number of resources and supports available to you, not just from the auditor's office, but also from the treasurer's office, because again, they set the valuation and the treasurer sends you the bill, right? And so, but I understand. I mean, right now, I can't even find a house, y'all. I really wanted to buy a house in this area, and I've been priced out, right? I can't pay over $500,000 for a house. But when down the street, there's multiple houses that are over $500,000, right? And so we're in a really interesting time in this particular neighborhood of Brownsville, where this is one of the hottest areas in the city because of its proximity to downtown and all the development that's happening there, and making that its way into this neighborhood. The other thing I want to say, I'm going to put property tax to the side for a second. Okay. I do want to talk about something totally separate. We were able to pass House Bill 2, and House Bill 2 there's two ways in which we allocate funding to our community. One of which is through the operating budget, and one of which is through the capital budget, right? And those are shovel-ready projects. This year, we also have a third bucket that is one-time strategic investment funds. And so Columbus and Ohio, around the state, we spent around $2 billion on road projects, university infrastructure development, but also in my district, District 1, which encompasses Brownsville, we were able to allocate $52 million in one time, $52 million. And one-time strategic investment funds. It's one of the, and so, and these are projects like, I represent downtown Columbus as well. So Berman Village, Franklin Park, or Old Town East, South Side, right? I said Brownsville. Oh, I said Brownsville. I meant Brownsville. Yes, ma'am. King Lincoln, Brownsville, or just Brownsville, right? Okay, I don't want to get beat up out here. So there's been a number of projects in my district, District 1, that we were successfully able to allocate funding to. Now, the Senate also has, so basically this one-time strategic funds is about $800 million. And so half of it is in the Senate and half of it was in the House. And we this week just passed our version of what the money we were allocated in our chamber to fund projects for. And so now we still have a capital budget process that we're still going through, which means like we have more local projects. So I have a couple of projects in Brownsville, for example, around affordable housing, around providing there's something else, some poverty, addiction, mental health, and addiction supports in Brownsville through the capital budget that we're currently going through. And so once we finalize that process, I'll come back to this body and just to commit, let you all know the totality of all the money that we've been bringing back into the district. And then the last piece on some legislative fronts, I've been working on a number of bills, a lot of them bipartisan. I don't know if folks knew this or not. In my first term in office, I passed 5 bills into law. And then this GA, I have 2 bills that have now gone over to the Senate, hopefully get over the finish line as well. One of which is to require employers to provide pay stubs to employees. Right now, Ohio is one of the only states left in the country that does not require employers to provide pay stubs.
Wow.
So how does that impact you, right? If you don't have a pay stub, you can't get on housing support, you can't get on SNAP, you can't get any utility assistance. You need your pay stub to show that you're working. And so there are families out there who can't get on these programs because they don't have that record. And so we're working really hard to make sure that we get that support to families. The second bill that we just got over the finish line in the House, right now, Ohio is one of the worst states in the nation when it comes to lead, particularly lead pipes. There's all throughout our state, we have old homes, old buildings that are filled with lead pipes. And because we never really did the data tracking on where these pipes were, it's often by discovery that we find them. And so when family members or homeowners like you all are in an older home and you have a lead pipe or lead pipes that's coming into your home, you are responsible for remediating it. And oftentimes that cost can be upwards of $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $6,000. Talking about money you don't have, right? And so what we are doing is a bill, and what we were able to do is a bill that's going to provide relief for families who are in that situation where they can't pay to remediate those lead pipes, but they're on what you will call a water utility company that's regulated by PUCO. You can get support to get those pipes remediated at little cost or no cost. And so we want to make sure that, again, as a public good, no child, no family member should be drinking water from lead pipes, right? And so that's a bill that's currently now just passed out the House this week. It's going into the Senate. And yeah, so those are just two bills. I have a number of bills that I've been able to introduce. One of them is related to sickle cell. One's related to removing subminimum wage, individual developmental disabilities or physical disabilities like deaf, hard of hearing, blind. They're likely eligible to get less than minimum wage. And in some cases, some people get paid 40 cents to the dollar an hour. And so the work that we're doing, for me, is a lot around economic justice and making sure that families aren't necessarily having these situations to trudge through. And so I'll stop there. Good to see you on the Zoom, on the Facebook, but I'll answer your questions. Yes.
You don't think of the homestead bill as instead of just an income level and 65? What about no matter what your income level is at 65? If it's 65, you all get it. Because in the long run, there's going to be fewer people at 65 you're going to be paying. You're going to be giving that too.
Yeah.
And all the younger people still moving in, you're getting more money. So just give everybody that's 65, 70 years old, give them that again.
That's a great thought, something I can definitely take back. I think the only issue is, since the 1970s, when the home state exemption was first developed, what they try to do is capture those who are most marginalized in terms of obviously home valuations have skyrocketed a lot, but back in the day, right? Even back in the 90s, let's say it like that, right? You could have bought a home for relatively cheap. And what happened was those families who were struggling or who got a home because through family legacy, right? They were struggling and they were still in those situations where they weren't making enough. Mm-hmm. And so part of the issue, and I know my colleagues always talk about this, is the balloon effect in terms of how much money are we spending if we give everybody the eligibility for exemption, right? And so I know that's going to be a conversation that will come back to me, but I'm going to take that advice. It's just figuring out we got to give more money to the people who need it, particularly our seniors who are on fixed income, right? That's the end all be all. We got to get more money. And so we got to figure out, what does that mean, right? What type of investment should we, some of this fund-time investment funds, to be quite frank with you, I can be on the record saying this, should have gone into a homestead, right? As an emergency money to provide more support for families who need it. Like that's what, in my head, part of what I would have done. But the reality is that that's not what happened. Mm-hmm. And so you're right. I'm going to take that back. But we got to do anything. I'm down to hear anybody's idea about fixing this issue because homeowners are losing their homes and it's just not right.
That's good. Go ahead. One other question and then we'll move on.
In this situation,
yes,
and things are falling backwards, these companies going down, that company going down, and even not just the seniors, the ones who coming up to be seniors and the ones before that.
Yeah.
You gotta stack this up. You gotta go to them people and go to their houses, and get the TVs and get all that, and go knock on their doors and do an assessment on these people before you can put it into a bill that you think you got enough money to cover that. If you go to their houses and see if there's a say where these companies, where their husband, or however long they work, for 20, 30 years, because a lot of this stuff is going down.
Yeah.
The people been working in these factories, and they don't have no money to cover these factories. It's not doing no good. Because once that money plays out that they immediately have had, or a spouse dies or something, it all goes down.
Yep.
You know, and even people come out in the walkers, they don't want to see them computers and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm a book person. You know, it just don't fit me.
Yep.
You feel me? I want to read something like in paper. You feel me?
Yeah.
But they're not going to go, and they're not going to trust everything they see on that machine.
Yep.
They're going to have somebody feel a person come talk to them. I'm not the telephone person, but you know, like they come and get there, and then how come they don't give them tax write off if they're only making this much amount of money, and you raise taxes up to 40%? They should get a tax write off for even just being in the community. That should be an incentive to not to even charge those people that type of money, because if they lose that, they might have mortgages or something. Kids in college, they can't leave nothing to the kids because they're gonna take all of that money. Whatever you owe on that, there's nothing gonna be nothing in the pot for them, their descendants, or nothing like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, you need to get out there to these people, knock on their doors, and they build all these old folks homes, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't get to the part where they get out the old folks homes. They might work for years. You're scared to get a house. Then they're gonna be 65, and you can't get money done. What are you, like 44 or something? You.
So we gave.
I'm 35. Normally people say I'm younger looking, not older. I'm listening.
And the type of job that you have is going to be a standard. But with this artificial intelligence, with this AI, everything is getting cut off. And I was telling them earlier, you ask your kid, what you going to be when you grow up? A fireman? What you going to be when you grow up? A football player? You know, it's different types of things. Yeah. And then you got to look ahead about what's going down. You keep increasing something, you're just stealing it from under them. You pulling the rug from under them by taking something that they spent years and years. You know, where you going to leave your property to? You can't leave it to your kids.
Right.
But they should assess the position that you're in, and then for them to be later on, before they talk about putting money in the pot, you got to assess what's going on with them right now. So then you put the money in the pot about these billions, and they'll build a rocket for billions of dollars, right? That's out space. Okay?
Right.
We're talking about here on the planet. You know what I'm saying?
But we got you. What I want you to do, I want you to get his information because he's good to hear, and set up a meeting and help him with information like what you just stated. This is good.
It's simple. It ain't stupid.
It is simple, but as a constituent, and you got a representative here who means business, you need to get his access, and he needs to be in touch with you so you can help him do the job that you just requested him to do.
But what's in his wallet?
Well, a lot's in his wallet. Because what's more in his wallet is his knowledge.
Right.
So I'm just saying, you need to be in touch with him with that.
But it's right in front of you. You know what I'm saying? It's not like
it's good, but he's gonna work with you, and we can bring it back to the investment.
One more thing. So if I had a magic wand, we wouldn't be in this.
You got the magic wand. But you a representative.
Now listen.
Okay, let him do his thing.
99 of us.
All right.
But one of the things I will say is, to the point I was mentioned earlier about freezing property taxes, there is a provision that's been done in some other places called a circuit breaker tax exemption. You probably know about this. And it is a very progressive, very bold idea where the least fortunate can, based upon income, to be able to turn off their property taxes and not have to necessarily pay for the valuation of their home. And these are typically the poorest, the people who live there the longest, and the people who are typically on a fixed income. That bill, unfortunately, will not fly in the current culture of the Ohio General Assembly, right? Which, I hate to say it, February 20th is the voting registration deadline. Mm-hmm. And so it is incumbent upon people, you got to tell your family, their friends, person got to tell their 5 people got to tell other 5 people. in order for us to really build the type of Ohio that is going to support the things that we're talking about tonight and today, it requires people's participation in the process.
Right.
And so I implore you, there's a lot of great ideas that we can do, but if we don't change the dynamics of the legislature, right, a lot of these great ideas often go to die. And so I'm here. I want to listen to everybody. I appreciate you all allowing me to serve you in the legislature. And just trust me, the work that we're doing, we are trying to find a reasonable solution that we can get passed in a law that's going to fix these issues related to property taxes. But in the meantime, there's a lot of support from the auditor's office, a ton of support from the Franklin County Treasurer's office, and we're in partnership with each other to try to take this issue under control.
And here we have one other question. And
Actually, can I make an announcement?
yes.
Okay. My name is Lee Austin. I do live in the neighborhood, and I am part of the Ohio Poor People's Campaign. And unfortunately, I'm hearing there's an awful lot going on March the 2nd. But given the culture that we're in and the legislature, the legislative realities, the Poor People's Campaign in Ohio and in 32, a total right now of 32 states around the country, we're having a simultaneous rally at the State House on March the 2nd.
Oh, great.
And again, the idea being is all of the issues that impact the poor. I mean, poverty is the fourth leading cause of death in this country.
Yep.
And again, the reality of 140 million people and all the issues that we're dealing with. So we're going to try and again speak to the state legislatures, which actually have more impact on daily lives than even our national government.
Yeah,
And so the culture of Ohio is very much an issue. And so if you are able, we would really love to have you come. We're going to gather at Trinity Episcopal at 10 o'clock, and then we will be walking over. We haven't decided yet whether we're going to pay the money for the police to be able to march in the street or whether we'll be on the sidewalk, but the rally will be over on the west side, and that will start at 11 o'clock. And we will have speakers who are impacted people as well as advocates and faith leaders. So I hope, again, be a part of the larger issue of trying to change the culture in Ohio.
great. And that's very good. Oh, yes, Mrs. Ball.
On what she's saying, it's so very important that we make this effort in Columbus.
And thank you. And I think that this is a good start, and we need to get people out and participate in the local politics. Washington is the red herring. I can tell you, we can talk all we want about, president, and it starts right here. Because whatever they do in Washington may or may never come to fruition. But if they make a decision, you will feel it in 30 days. So we have to focus on local politics and get them involved. And then one other thing to our representative, for some of those funds, we would like if we can work out something that we can get some of that money. Because Dana and I and the Brownsville Neighborhood Association have been begging the city, they've given us the runout for lighting. We need to make our neighborhoods safe, pedestrian lighting. And they keep finding one excuse not to give us pedestrian lighting. We said we need pedestrian lighting from Broad to Mount Vernon, up and down the streets. And we've done reports, we've done everything.
And the city hasn't done anything.
Not one penny. We were even told, why do you want lights now? You don't live in the dark. By representative. So I'm just saying that this is.
One looks like you.
That's right.
That wasn't me.
No, it wasn't me. I'm just saying that we've been fighting this battle for pedestrian lighting for a while. And if I have one of my own people to tell me face to face, why do you need lights now? Y'all live in the dark.
May I make a suggestion?
So I'm saying we with the council, we're going to put on the capital budget, and every year, for example, our park down here, the Brownsville Community Park, we've asked them to put elections so we can have bands and music. We haven't had it.
Well, two things.
They don't have money.
So So the two things I'll say real quick, one, I would encourage everyone, I mean, we did change to a different system of government in the city council. And so this area is 7, so it's represented by Councilwoman Sheila Faye. I would invite or implore the body to invite her to come here to talk about some of those city issues. But I'm absolutely happy to take that back and see exactly what we can do to be supportive and helpful. I mean, we have already kind of gone through this leg of the process for capital. I mean, individuals were submitting out bids for capital projects last year. And so we have been going through this a lot, but that doesn't mean that we can't do something. And so Mayor, I will definitely get back with you and figure out some time.
And we understand that, time is there, but as always, darkness is coming right after the light. Even after day, you're going to get darkness. There's always will be here. We just want to light it up at night.
I'm with you.
Yeah, that's good. All right, thank you for that. And if there are any other announcements that we can have, and then we're going to adjourn. Commissioner Hutchinson, who is going to give us some announcements, and then we have Mrs. Rita Smith, and we'll go from there. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eric Hutchison, Near East Area Commission. First, our representative Gerald is already in support of this. But I'd be remiss. We have a couple visitors here that he does not represent. I think President Brown and we mentioned earlier the NEAC meetings regarding the assessments. One of the things that I learned there was House Bill 263, 70 under 70. So it's people who are older than 70, making less than 70,000 annually, to freeze their taxes, property taxes. That bill is stalled. Even though our representative is supporting it, supportive of it. So if we can help him get that across the line, it'd be great. And I know our Senator Craig is also supportive of it. Yes. So that's one quick thing. And then the second is just a development project. Our planning meeting is Thursday at 6:30 at the Model Neighborhoods Building, 881 Mount Vernon, which is the southwest corner of Monroe and Mount Vernon. It's an existing building, so it's coming through NEAC for zoning for 2 commercial spaces below and 2 apartments above. Which I think is consistent with what we want on Mount Vernon. But this coming Thursday.
It's coming Thursday.
It's coming Thursday at 6:30.
Zoning.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And the reason why that's important for us to know, so that we will know what's going on, we can be there and pass that. So the next meeting, someone can ask us what has happened. We can be able to tell them. If not, Commissioner Hutchinson will be able to relay that information. Okay, Mrs. Smith.
I just wanted to ask if you had an update on the neighborhood house.
Okay.
Because I'm concerned about it, because as a historian, we are losing all of our, we have lost. We have lost so much of our.
Well, no, they put it up for sale. I don't know if it's sold or not. I think
it did. What happens to the neighborhood?
Well, I'm gonna call. Go ahead. I was told that it was that the property was sold. I know Housing Authority was putting it up for sale, but I have to check with them on Monday and find out what the details have and what is the plan from that point. If someone purchased it, what are they going to do with it? I know. So I'll find that out on Monday. I'll call Charles Hillman himself and find out where that's going, so we can have some idea and some input. Because that's a critical piece. We're still waiting for the Department of Development to do something, make some decisions after the assessment for latitude 525. We got to look at that. What's going to happen with that and that whole northern boundary here that we got to look at with OSU again with the master plan. And I say that with a sense of urgency that we have to begin to not only light the air but do stuff, because here's what's happening. We just lost a business. 3 Bites is moving to downtown.
the bakery that was on Mount Vernon.
Oh, really?
Yes, and from incentives from downtown. We're not going to get into that, but again, like how the malls when they came up took away the business from the downtowns of cities. Well, this is the same thing now. I mean, not all that, but they're going, and then we have the businesses in the Mount Vernon Plaza that's supposed to be going, and that's going to be shutting down. So, okay, that sounds, we get rid of that stuff. But my point here is we have to come with an aggressive plan that's not 5 years out, but within the next 1 to 3 years. Because what will happen if we don't do that? The negative element, the crooks, the thieves, whatever, the drug dealing will increase exponentially within months. They're not dumb. They know when something is vacant, that becomes a haven. Right now, at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I've been out there to go in the Mount Vernon Plaza, down the stairs. There's a cornucopia of drugs you can buy if you have the money. And you see the young people going there buying, and also people that have to have the Narcan, that when they overdose, they can bring them back. I've seen that right here. So you're telling me now, if we don't do something collectively to economically have a plan with OSU, with the city, with everyone, that when these places are vacant, tear them down or whatever they're going to do, that we have to have a building plan, because if that negative gets back in here, it will not leave no time soon. And also what it will create the have and the have-nots. North of Mount Vernon will be the have-nots. South of Mount Vernon will be those that have. And then you have the Mason-Dixon right down Mount Vernon. It will happen. And I'm making that very clear. I'm from Harlem. I know how the negative energy can come in there, and you cannot outthink a thief who lives on the street. You cannot. They are more organized. They are more strategic. They know how to get in here. Right now, they're at bay because things are happening. But the minute that it stops, you will see how fast the negative element will overwhelm the community. And all what we are doing will go to zero. I'm just saying. So we have to come together. Brownsville is organizing. We got to speak with the city people. We have the developers. We have our representative. We have to come together with a holistic plan not to lose the Brownsville community, because we are so near downtown. We're almost like the Midtown. We're right here. And so we have to come together, because we will live and see the devastation that it will happen. It happened in the 70s. It will happen again. When they tore down those houses and left Mount Vernon vacant for 10 years, look what happened. We're still recovering from that today. So all I'm saying here is we have to work collectively. We're always, Brownsville are always the true American, because we represent the eagle with the olive branches in one hand, one talon, and the arrows in the other. And what that is, we look at the eagle and our symbol, and on the dollar bill, what those things represent as Brownsvillians. We'll always come in peace, but by George, we're prepared to fight.
All right.
And that is us. So I just want people to know that that's where we go. We have to move quickly to do something with a plan and light the area. And I want to thank everyone for coming. If there are no other questions, can I get a motion to adjourn our wonderful meeting? Oh, Stephanie.
No, Jonas, we adjourn.
Well, she did. She asked the question.
Oh, okay. I move that we adjourn.
Can I get a second? All in favor say aye. Aye.